Hi everyone, welcome. Amazing. I see some people coming in. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Stefania, I just noticed that the chat can't be set to everyone. Can you change that over?
Yep,
Thank you.
there we go. Hi everyone, welcome. Perfect. Why don't you all share on the chat where you're tuning in from so that way we can see where we have people coming in. I'm based in Vancouver, BC, so I'm connecting today from there. Elise, do you want to share where you're connecting from?
Yeah, so normally I'm based in Hamilton, Ontario, but today I am connecting from Cashabog Lake, Ontario. So I am enjoying the beautiful fall splendor lakeside today.
Amazing, lovely to hear that. Okay, perfect. So we'll get started. The session is going to be recorded. So if you end up missing the first little bit, no worries. We're going to be sending you the recording after. So you should be getting that relatively soon after we're done. So my name's Stefania, and I'm the customer care team lead for our customer care department here at Keela. And today I'm really excited to have Elise walking you over a Giving Tuesday automation workflow and kind of like how you can engage your donors through Giving Tuesday. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Elise. And yeah, and if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them on the chat. I'm going to be managing the chat, and then we'll also have some time at the end for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stefania. I'm really excited to be with all of you today. I know some of you are very new customers to Keela, but I also see some of the people who are here are some of our longtime existing customers. So welcome to everybody. I'll go through a little bit of an agenda of what we'll do today. Just give me one moment. Apologies, I had a tickle. It's live, right? Today, I'm going to go over some basic tips on how to utilize the automation tool. And then I'm going to go over 3 different workflows with you. I'm going to talk about an end of year engagement using automation. I'm also going to talk about a couple of other workflows that I've seen other organizations use really successfully for engagement. So, a major donor workflow that is strictly internal, as well as a club access for recurring donors that I saw another organization use that I loved. So, I'm going to show you a couple of those examples as well. So I want to take a second to say, actually, I am a fundraiser, so I know where you have been. But what I want to ask you first is, what is it you needed more of as a fundraiser? What do you need more of? Pop it in the chat if you can tell me what you need more of as a fundraiser. I don't want to be too quiet. Well, I'll share what I always needed more of when I was a fundraiser. For us, it was time. I never had enough time. Yeah, more money. Yeah, good idea. New ideas. Yes. Tracking donors who donate. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. More. Yes. And a good way to accomplish that is through more time and access to more time. At least that's what I found was that I always needed more time. But there are only 24 hours in a day. And the only way to increase my time is to automate some of my processes so I can set it up and kind of forget about it. There's already a bunch of automation that we're utilizing within Keela. We're automatically emailing receipts. We've got forms tagging contacts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But our automation tool really takes that to the next level. It allows you to create custom workflows to help connect with your donors while also saving you time to do work that really matters because you can't automate a relationship. You can't automate a phone call, right? You have to still do that important work. The nice thing about automation sequences is that they take the human out of manual processes. So once they're set up and correct, you can kind of forget about them because the margin of error is reduced to near zero. So I'm going to share my screen with you right now because I'm going to walk through a few of our automation, a bit of our automation tools. It looks like I just had to request sharing, Stefania. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. And I'm going to share my screen with you because I want to show you the tool in action. So this is actually my developer account. I am definitely not a developer, but it is my developer account. So while we're poking around in here, you might see something that you don't see in your Keela account. That's because it's something that's in testing or it's in practice, or things that are yet to come. So for example, you'll notice that I've got my reports 2.0 or version 2 right here. That's a little hint that reporting updates are coming because we've got them in beta right now. So I'm going to jump into our automation tool here. It's pretty simple table setup tool. There is a workflow folder, and then there is also an archive folder. It's just a separate folder to store your workflows in. You can have as many workflows as you want. And I actually recommend coming up with some kind of naming convention for your workflow. So you'll notice here that I've got a bunch that are titled demo. So all we have to do is type in demo and all of our demonstration workflows kind of come up automatically. You can do that too with recurring or forms or whatever you need as an organizational tool. We're going to, just for today, I'm going to do a quick create a workflow from scratch. And I'm just going to show you our birthday acknowledgement workflow here. Oh, I already have one. We'll do a V2. There we go. This workflow is pretty straightforward. It is literally a starting point and a main point of the workflow, but that's exactly what I want to be able to show you just so you can learn a bit about how automation works. It's about creating automation workflows in order to, like, with Giving Tuesday in mind. So just at the beginning, Rachel, I'm going to do a very brief demonstration of automation just for folks who may be really, really new to the tool. And then I'm going to dive into some of my Giving Tuesday recommendations. Well, creating a new workflow is being very slow for me today. I'm not 100% sure what's going on here, but that's okay. I can actually just jump into this first time donor series workflow. It's a pretty cool one to look at. So every workflow is triggered by a starting point. So this is an action within your Keela account that either you or a donor takes, whether that's completing a transaction or setting up. Oh, this is a birthday workflow. Geez. So we've got our contact's birthday starting point here. So that in this case is the starting point. There's a number of them you can add: new contacts, joins a segment, completes a form, even receives an email, which is how we're going to start our automation workflow today, all the way down even to like clicks a link. And then that will flow into an action that the automation will take on behalf of your organization. So we can send an email, we can notify users, we can add to-dos, remove tags, and add fields. Really easy to do to add. You just click the plus button and then you click add to add any given stage. So that's just a very, very basic primer of a few automation tools that I thought would be relevant before we jumped in and looked at some of my end of year workflows. Because my end of year workflow that I'm going to look at, this end of year engagement campaign, is a little bit of what I like to call a monster. So I'll jump into the workflow here and I'm going to show you what I mean actually by zooming out, because I want you to get a sense of the breadth in which you can create workflows. So a contact will always enter at the starting point and then drip through the sequence as they meet the conditions or complete the filters. I'm going to walk through this whole automation with you step by step, arm by arm, so you can see everything that's been created here. But this kind of gives you an overall picture of what an automation workflow can look like. So I'm going to zoom back in and I'm going to start at the top and we're going to work our way down. So this workflow starts when a contact receives an email, and that email will be my Giving Tuesday 2024 kickoff email that I have designed and built within my communication tool. All right. So I've simply linked it here as the e-blast that will trigger this workflow. When a contact receives that email, they'll then get split into two filters. This filter will allow me to exclude anyone who is on my board of directors, who is a volunteer, or who might be a client of my organization. This is, of course, an optional step, but just a way to show you how to filter out contacts who you may not want to go through this workflow. If any of my contacts meet this condition, they travel all the way down here and they exit out of the workflow. But for does not contain any of, if they do not contain any of these tags, they'll continue down to my next step. So first, we're going to wait until a contact opens my email. So we're looking to see if they have opened my Giving Tuesday 2024 email, and we're going to wait 5 days. If they open that email within those 5 days, they'll then move down my yes path. Okay, so we'll continue to follow the line across down my yes path. And here, we'll wait to see if they make a transaction. So 3 days after they open the email, do they make a transaction? If they do make a transaction, they travel down the yes path. They get a tag added to their profile for Giving Tuesday 2024. This is just a campaign management tag. In this case, you do not have to add this because remember, you can track contacts by the campaign that they have given to. We'll add a 20-minute delay after they've given, and we're going to send them an additional thank you in addition to their thank you that's attached to the receipt. And this one will be personal with a happy holidays message instead of our general letter, which doesn't give a happy holidays message. So just something a little extra. All right. And then they exit out and they're done. When we move down to our wait until contact makes a move back to our contact makes a transaction, if they don't make a transaction within 3 days, I'm then going to start giving them a little bit more information about their impact. So what it is we are going to utilize their funding for, were they to give to us. Again, we'll wait 3 days for them to make a transaction. And if they do, we'll follow very similar steps to over here. We'll add our Giving Tuesday tag. We'll add a 20-minute delay, and then we'll add in our email. One of the nice features about our automation tool is the duplication feature. So you can actually click on the little dots and click duplicate, and then duplicate a stage, and it will duplicate the content of that stage too, including all of the content of the email. All right. So we're back up to this wait until contact makes a transaction again. So they still haven't made a transaction. We've waited another 3 days. We send them a final ask email. In this one, I've called it Cozy Up to Our Cause. It's the last chance to make a difference before end of year. We send them this final ask email. And then again, we're going to wait. Do they make a transaction within 3 days? If they do, we send that email and that holiday, that thank you again. Oh, and we'll add in our delay of 20 minutes. I personally like to add in delays or use automation workflows that add in delays because when I, as a donor, make a donation through Aquila form, automatically, without any delay whatsoever, I get an automatic thank you email and receipt into my inbox. Because it comes immediately after I make the donation, I reasonably would know as a donor that that was an automated message that was sent. Nobody was actually looking at my donation and was personally grateful for the gift that I had given when I had received that thank you. Delays can help mitigate that. So if there's a 20-minute delay between my donation being processed and then me getting an additional thank you email that's addressed to me, says happy holidays because it's the season, I am a lot more likely to assume that that email has come from an actual human being instead of automated by a system. Maybe you want to add more than a 20-minute delay. Maybe it's a 2-hour delay. Maybe it's a 45-minute delay. Keep in mind, you've got all kinds of options here for delaying the stage. But I just find it creates the illusion of being more personal. And as we all know, fundraising is about relationship building. And if we can start developing relationships by sending an email that feels more personal, I think it helps us get our foot in the door for when we really do the real work of relationship building, which is face to face and on the phone and that kind of thing. Okay. Jumping back up to that final wait until the contact makes a transaction. If they do not make a transaction, we've given them 3 asks. After that, I believe you're bugging them. Some organizations do 5 asks, and I think that that's a fair number too. We're going to add a tag that says lapsed donor, and then we're going to add a to-do to either remove the contact or add the contact to a future campaign. I see there's a few things in the chat, Stefania. If you think that they're relevant right now, please jump in and interrupt me, okay?
Yeah, Elise, actually, there's a couple of good questions that might be good to cover as we go. So
Absolutely.
Darla is asking if you don't have their contact information when they donate the first time, can it automatically input their contact information?
Yeah, so after somebody donates for the first time, Keela will automatically collect their email address, their address from their donation. Those are all required fields for our donation forms. And it automatically will get tracked within their Keela contact profile.
Perfect. Then Sharon is asking, when you create a bit more about your impact email, if they haven't
Mhm.
donated yet, can you use the template or create a template for here if you haven't already done so?
Another great question. Thanks for asking that one, Sharon. Okay, so I'll click in and I'll actually show you. So you can utilize any of your templates that you have created within communications within your automation sequence. Okay, you'll just click here to change the template and then you can choose any even from your saved templates file. But here is I don't have any saved templates in my developer account, just the default ones, unfortunately. Here is a quirk of automation, though, and I was actually going to mention this a bit later. Sharon is great at preempting me. It happens all the time in our training sessions too. Um, One of the quirks about our automation tool is that while we can use a template from our communications tool, we cannot save an automation email as a template and use it either in communication or in a different workflow. We could duplicate it to use within the same workflow, but we can't use it in a different workflow. So if you feel that, like the more about your impact email is something that you're going to use in more than one workflow, or you already have one built out as a template within communications, yes, you can 100% bring it in by adding it in under the content tab, but you can't save an automation workflow email as a template. A little bit of a quirk.
Perfect. And then we do have one more question coming in from Rachel. We have older donors with no email. How would that work?
Yeah, another great question. So for older donors with no email, automation workflows probably wouldn't be, or this automation workflow wouldn't probably be the right choice for you. But you could do something like this with either paper mailing or with phone calls. So for example, as opposed to for wait until contact opens an email, we would maybe have like um a to-do set, and we would use the joins a segment stage to have the to-do to check for the to-do to see whether or not they have had a phone call yet. And if they have had a phone call yet, we could see whether or not they've made a transaction. This contact makes a transaction doesn't refer specifically to a form. It could be any transaction on their account, including a check that's manually inputted or a phone call that comes in. And then again, we could utilize this feature to add a to-do to make a thank you call or to send a paper thank you letter.
And then a follow-up question to Rachel. So I was thinking more generally about the forms and required fields. You said email and address are both required.
Mhm. Yes, so email address is required to complete the online forms that you would send publicly to your donor. It's not required though if you are tracking a donation for your contact manually within Keela, only for our public facing forms.
Yeah, so something that you can do, Rachel, if you're having donors that don't want to share their email address or don't have one, they can call in and you can go ahead and input the donation for them on their contact directly in Keelan. You wouldn't need an email address for that. Perfect. So those were all the questions. Back to you, Elise.
Perfect. Thank you. No, that's a perfect break for me to have a quick drink. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go all the way back up to the top of our workflow because I feel like we might have got a little convoluted. I'm going to move us down through this workflow again, but we're going to go down the no path for wait until contact opens an email. And I'm just going to show you what my suggestions are for that no path. So your contact still receives that first Giving Tuesday 2024 kickoff email. We're again going to check and make sure that none of our board of directors, volunteers, or clients are going to get this, going to move through our workflow. And then we're going to wait until they open the email. If they do not open the email, might be time to do a little bit of email stewardship. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to send this email, and I called it, it's the busiest time of the year. Can you spare 2 minutes for us? And you can work with this for your organization. I was helping an organization who specializes in like dogs rescuing, that kind of thing, and they had like a really cute thing about like barking up the Christmas tree. Like, are we barking up the wrong Christmas tree? It was very cute and suited their organization. So if you have something that meets your organizational um language standards or fits in. I find that puns can be really eye-catching, or things like barking up the wrong Christmas tree. It's cute, it's eye-catching, and it matches what the message of the organization was. But basically, we're going to send an email and just really reach out to them directly. Do you have 2 minutes for us just to read this email and make a donation? If they do open the email, we're then going to send them another email that says what's coming up during the holidays. Again, this is a targeted email, short and sweet, about the work that we are specifically doing during the holidays. If they then make a transaction, we're going to give them that Giving Tuesday tag. We're going to delay it for 20 minutes and send that same thank you. So again, we can duplicate a lot of these pieces once we've created them the first time. If they don't open that contact makes a transaction, or if they don't make a transaction, but they have opened our emails, we'll then continue to move them down that very similar workflow to I already showed you in that other arm. Okay. What happens if they don't open our can you spare 2 minutes email? Let's ask them, are we bugging you? Let's see if they open this email. If they do open this email, I'm going to show you how to duplicate something over. So if they open this email, we can then start duplicating over all of the content that we've already created, right? All we have to do is we can click the little button, we click duplicate. And in this case, I'm going to say this stage and all after. So everything in this arm is going to duplicate into this spot. Because I'm duplicating multiple fields, this can sometimes take a moment or two to actually work in. Here we go. See, it's going to get a lot wider. There we go. So now we've got the are we bugging you email. If they don't open that email, we maybe will stop emailing them. We're going to notify users that the contact has not opened 3 emails in a row. We should maybe consider a different stewardship strategy. So maybe the emailing isn't working. We can look at their history and see what's happening. So I made this note here, assess your donor profile. You might want to look at their donation history. Have they given to you before? Have they given to you significantly before? Did they give you $500 in December for the last 4 years and all of a sudden drop off? Maybe it's worth a phone call to see if everything's okay and to perhaps steward that relationship. Did they give you $20 once off 2 years ago? Then maybe it's not worth your effort to go through to steward. Again, this is really going to be based on the time that you have and, in some cases, the time you've saved. With the automation workflow that you can put into these other areas of stewardship. So if valuable, you might want to consider engaging them by mail or phone, or you might consider deleting the contact. So maybe they've never given to your organization. The contact was created 5 years ago. They've never given to your organization and they've never opened your emails. Maybe it's worth considering deleting that contact. You can set due dates as well as notifications for the assignee of any to-dos that you create in an automation. You'll also notice that anywhere where there's still work to do, it'll tell you. So you have an action needed on any of your pieces that still have outstanding work before this can be activated. You'll also see up here where it tells you the actions needed. So I have seen this workflow or this style of workflow work really successfully for folks who are trying to do end of year engagement campaigns. I ran something very similar to this when I was fundraising, and we did actually have an increase in second time donors, which was really, really exciting. And we brought in uh, about $25,000 more than we had expected, simply because we were really able to work on engagement and we didn't have donors who got missed or were dropping off. We also got, and this was a huge one, and I don't have a good quantifiable number here, but as fundraisers, you will all understand exactly what I am saying here. We got far less complaints from people who had already given to the organization as a result of the email. But then we're still continuing to get communications because they had slipped through the cracks of a segment, or an email was sent out using a Excel sheet from yesterday as opposed to an Excel sheet from today, and they had made a donation overnight. Um, it just really helped, I think, increase our donor confidence in what our processes were. And that was really nice. As I said, I don't have like a quantifiable number for what that confidence increase might look like. Um, but again, as we know as fundraisers, the less donors who are calling and saying, "Hey, I don't want to get any more emails from you," the better, particularly when they are stewarded and giving donors. I see some more questions popping in, Stefania. What can I answer while we're here on this workflow?
No questions after the one from Rachel. Oh,
Okay,
actually,
that's
there's one in
great.
Q&A. Sorry, I didn't see that. What does the action needed mean in this case? That you need to put content in the email?
Yeah, so in this case, I need to add content to the email, and I also need to, just like in the communications tool, finish off my little check boxes. So I need to add a sender. In this case, we'll make the sender me. Maybe we'll make it Elise Arith at World of Difference. If you've ever trained on communications with me, I've definitely mentioned this, but I always think it's a good practice to include the organization name in the sender field or the from field of your communications or emails that are coming from here. When I was fundraising, people didn't have really any idea who Elise was. Like they did if we had talked on the phone or something, but they didn't really know who Elise Arith was. But they knew who Elise Arith from World of Difference was because they knew I was from World of Difference or my organization. So that's just a little tip from my experience, including your organization name really helps it be recognizable. And then adding any content. So again, I can just click here to add content. It brings me right to my templates. If I want a blank, I can start right from the bottom. I'm just going to, it's an end of year, right? So I'll use this It's Giving Tuesday template that we've got set up to add in my content. And now I have added in basic content, but if I jump back into my workflow, that one will be completed. There it is. So that one will be completed now that I've finished it up in my workflow.
No more questions, so you're good to continue.
Perfect. I'm going to jump over and show you a couple of other workflows that I have found to be really, really useful for ongoing engagement. And you can actually do some of these without automation. It's just automation makes them a bit easier. So when I type in demo, the first one I actually want to show you is my recurring, it's this one, right? My recurring donor welcome.
Actually, Elise, sorry to interrupt you, but there's a couple questions two questions that came in. I spoke too soon.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's go back. Love
Okay,
that.
perfect. So Sandy is asking, could we send the workflow on a certain date, say December 31st, and then send an email to everyone no matter where they are in the workflow?
Great question. You can do that under the communications tool by scheduling. There's no way to set a scheduled date within an automation workflow. So, definitely a limitation that I have worked through with customers. There's no way to say, we'll have this entire workflow. And then if they donated, there's a hold until December 31st where they get a Happy New Year email. We don't have that functionality within Keela. We only have the ability to set delays based on relative points in time.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Elise. And then Rachel is asking, will you please share the Giving Tuesday email template?
Yes, actually, I think that isn't I believe it's available within all Keela accounts. I will look and see if it's not Rachel.
Perfect. And then Sharon
Yep.
is asking, would love a segment to be created to target an audience. Is this possible via a workflow?
A workflow to create a segment? No, we'd have to create the segment under contact segments, but we could utilize a workflow to like move them through different areas, like in the based on what their fields were. Maybe we should talk about this individually to see if I can help you set this one up, Sharon.
Or you can also, another alternative is like setting up the workflow and then adding the tag and then building the segment with that tag.
Yes, that's a really good option too, Stefania. Yeah, so being able to add the tag.
Yeah, like everyone
Mhm.
that matches like how you want them to move through the workflow, like you can add a tag and then you can build out like communications through the tag, or you can just create a segment and just use your tag as your filter.
Yeah,
But
that's a
yeah,
great one.
definitely Sharon, send us an email or book a call with Elise and she can walk you over that one.
Yeah, happy to.
Perfect. I think those were all
Okay,
the questions for now, so back to you.
brilliant. Okay. I want to take a moment to show you our recurring donor welcome series that I have seen a different organization use very successfully. So one of our Keela customers, all of their recurring donors that come in, they are joining a club within that organization. They're still recurring donors. It has, not a significant impact on the organization, but they get some exclusive content as a result of being a part of that club. So if you have any way of providing some exclusive content to your supporters, particularly who are recurring, this would be a great thing to advertise through a Giving Tuesday or end of year campaign. To be able to kind of push people into becoming recurring donors. So when somebody schedules a recurring donation, and I've got this set to donation only, they trigger this workflow. So they'll start moving through. I've added a 10-minute delay. Again, I want this to just feel a little bit more personal, as if somebody actually did get the transaction, look at it and go, wow, somebody has given us a recurring donation. I'm going to send them an email. So the first thing I do is I send a very short and sweet email that says, hold on tight, exclusive in access is coming. Um, Again, it's very short and sweet way to say thank you again for your recurring donation. Your exclusive content is coming along. I just wanted to drop you a little personal note to say, thanks for thinking of us and for wanting to support us on an ongoing basis. There's then a 1-day delay, and the next day they get an email with an exclusive video tour of the facility. The organization is a wildlife organization and they provide some rehab services. So it's a tour of their facility to allow folks to see what work they're doing and where their money is actively going toward. Excellent, excellent, excellent technique for engaging donors and continuing to keep donors engaged, just to show them where their money is going. They did a video tour specifically with their executive director. Very cool. Connect with somebody who feels, like very high profile. There's then a 7-day delay, and they offered a discount code for their online store. Now, keep in mind that Keela Forms do not offer discount codes, but Raisley does, and we are working on a direct integration with the Raisley platform. So if you're interested in like selling merch or having discount codes or anything like that, reach out to us at Keela Support, and we're more than happy to chat with you about that possibility. So they sent an email that had a discount code, which was really great. They had their own online store. So, like if you have your own online store, that's perfect. You can always send like a discount code or even a link to exclusive merchandise that's only available for the club. Maybe there's a t-shirt that only club members can purchase. Next, there's a delay for 30 days. And then they sent a survey using a Keela subscription or Keela custom form, asking why that donor was giving to the organization. What was your affinity to the organization? I found this to be really, really enlightening because it then allowed the organization to further segment donors for communications, for newsletters, for requests for donations in the future, for emergency contact. Um, I recently signed up for a recurring campaign with an organization, and that was actually one of the questions that they included when I signed up was, why did you choose this organization to give? And the options were things like, I have this illness. I know somebody who has this illness. I just want to support a good cause. And then based on the choice that I picked, I've already started to get some really targeted emails from them to try and increase my affinity with the organization. So good on them for exercising that. This last one, so this is where that organization's workflow ended. This last one is one that I thought of, and I just wanted to throw out there if you have the timing capacity for something like this, because again, fundraising is all about relationship building. Um, this is a Difference Club exclusive. And they offered a short 15-minute call with the executive director or the, board member of the organization to have a chat about the work that they were doing and to connect personally. This is great actually as a two-way learning process. So one, it gives your donors a way to connect with your organization and feel more affinity, but also it gives you and your organization a way to prospect a little bit more information about your donor. Who are they? What does their family look like? Where are they coming from? What is, if they didn't answer your survey here, what is their affinity to your organization? So just a gentle call for them to be able to call and book and have a chat with you. So this is actually a very straightforward workflow, very different than our end of year Giving Tuesday series, right? In this case, it's kind of a guide through in a straight line all of the different stages. Stefania, were there questions about this one?
Yep, there's a question from Rachel in here. So Giving Tuesday is scheduled for Tuesday, December 3rd. What are
Mm-hmm.
the best practices for when to start outreaching to donors to start marketing to them? 1 week in advance. If we can't schedule automation based on specific dates, how could we set this up best?
Yeah, great question. Really depends on what kind of giving you are looking to do. So for example, if you're looking to do a peer campaign in advance of Giving Tuesday, you'd probably want to start your outreach for that within the next week or so around the beginning of November. Simply because you want to give your contacts an opportunity to do some fundraising, reach out to folks, and make plans if they wanted to do something special for within that peer-to-peer campaign. For actually contacting donors and getting them to start the donation process. Yes, a week before is a really great way to start, particularly if that's already sort of the campaign expectations of your organization. So if you tend to start about a week before your big day, it's really good to kind of stick with those processes that you've already established because your donors will be used to your rhythm. When it comes to starting this end of year engagement campaign that I've set up, it is triggered by this communication. So, this Giving Tuesday 2024 kickoff. Well, I can't schedule the start of a workflow. I can schedule when I am going to send my communication. I'd be able to do that right here. There's a schedule option when I have again completed all of my check boxes. I'll do this very quickly so I can show you. And then we'll add some quick content. Whoops, not that one. This one. And then we can schedule that to send for December the 3rd. So my communication will send on December the 3rd. Everyone who goes through just as an example, everyone who goes through everyone who receives this communication will automatically move into my recurring donor, or sorry, not recurring donor, my end of year campaign workflow. So this workflow effectively will start on December the 3rd. Does that help? Did that answer the question, do you think, Stefania?
Yep, it does.
Okay,
Great.
perfect. Just
And
wanted
no
to
more
make sure.
questions, so you're all good.
Okay, no, that's a great question. Okay. The last one I wanted to talk about, also in anticipation for end of year, is a major donor thank yous workflow. Whoops, not that one, because I have made changes. This one for 2024. The reason why this one is a really nice kind of workflow to launch in conjunction with a end of year campaign or a Giving Tuesday campaign is that as donors are giving to you, it's doing some filtering and segmenting, kind of I think what you might have been asking about, Sharon, on your behalf in the back end. Although it's not creating specifically a segment, this sequence will tag donors, and then we can then use those tags for communications or segments, that kind of thing. So whenever a contact makes a transaction, a donation transaction, this workflow is going to check whether they have given a total donation of $500 or more in the lifetime of their account. If they have, they continue down the yes path. If they haven't, they just exit out of the workflow because I don't want to send them a like I don't want to start engaging with them as a major donor until $500 or more. After that, we further split and say, is their total donation between $500 and $999? Yes. They then move down this arm. They get a major donor one tag, which we could use for emailing or segmentation or anything like filtering, anything like that. A user, me, gets a notification that there is a new person who's been added to major donor one. And then there's also a to-do to send a personalized thank you email. So keep in mind that all of this is done internally. None of the in this specific workflow, none of this is happening. None of this is reaching our donor. All of this is happening internally for our team to work with. If their total giving history is not between 500 and 999, they then move down into the next filter, which checks to see if their giving is between 1,000 and 1499. If it is in that range, they get the major donor 2 tag, notification, and then they also get a tag to call the donor. Or sorry, a to-do to call the donor. Next split is 1,500 to 2,000. Major donor 3, they get a phone call. And then the final one would be 2,000 and above. They get major donor 4, and then they also get a phone call and a handwritten letter. In this case, we can add the to-do for a different person. So maybe in this case, I'm going to make the to-do Stefania because she's the big boss. So it'll notify her that she needs to write a handwritten letter to this donor because they've given us $2,000 or more lifetime. This kind of stewardship can be really, really handy, particularly with end of year. One of the things I found at Giving Tuesday was it could be an incredibly overwhelming time for my organization, both with donations coming in through forms, keeping on top of things, and then also things that were getting sent in via check or being called in to our organization. As a result of that, I often found that where during the rest of the year, it was really, really easy for me to keep up with when somebody had given a major gift. When we got to Giving Tuesday, I was drowning in stuff to do, and this was not work that was easy to cover. So it was easy for it to slip off the table. The automation takes care of that for you and stops those donors from slipping through the cracks, ensuring that there are to-dos, ensuring that you're getting notifications about the people who are coming in and really contributing to your organization. I think I see more questions.
Yep. There's one question, well, one comment from a Sharon. She says that she loves this a workflow that this needs to be a template, and we 100% agree.
Yeah, we definitely do. This is a really, really good one. And if you have any questions while you're trying to set it up, happy to help you with any steps. The nice thing is you can always adjust the filter levels, right? So if for your organization, a major donor doesn't start until $5,000, right? It's really easy for you to bump this up and say, to 74.99, right? You can bump these values up really, really easily, and make changes as you go.
And no,
Aw, thanks, Jason.
Jason sent a really nice message. Thanks, Jason. So Jason
Yes,
said, for the ones that can't see it, Jason said that he works in Keela. He's part of our sales team. And he says never seen such a beautiful automation workflow.
it's very symmetrical because it's doing the same thing just depending on the filter level. I also think that this is a really good way to kind of visualize what an automation workflow does. And you'll notice we talk about workflows, we talk about contacts dripping through. And that's because I really want you to be thinking about the way water flows down a little pipe or a little channel as the contact meets the conditions. Um, so each stage flows into the next, into the next, into the next, into the next, into the next. No, there's no limit on the number of automation workflows that you can make. You can make an unlimited number of workflows, which is really cool. You can have an unlimited number active at any given time. And sometimes you'll actually find that I recommend you break a workflow down into two separate streams. So I was working with another customer very recently, and they wanted to do a workflow that took anybody who made a transaction and checked whether it was recurring or whether it was not recurring, and then all within the same workflow did different actions based on whether they were a recurring donor or not. And I was like, wait a second, why don't we just break this out and do the contact schedule as a recurring donation as our starting point for one? And we do, like a contact schedule as a donation, and we check it for one time for the other. And he was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. So I definitely follow a KISS standard, keep it simple, sweetheart. And I think it's really, really important that sometimes you take a step back and you figure out what your end goal of your workflow is, and then you can always work backwards from there. So in the case of that person, it was engagement, right? It was they wanted to gather more information about their donors. They wanted to move donors who were one-time donors and move them to become recurring donors. Like they wanted to do some stewardship there. And they wanted to gather information about who their donors were and do some very gentle prospecting through a workflow of their already recurring donors. So there were different goals, right? We had 3 different goals in mind. And while 2 of them were about recurring donors, one of them had nothing backwards. What is your end goal? What is the action that you want to see coming out of this workflow? And then you can develop backwards to all of your filters and your starting point.
We have a one question from Jason. So Jason is asking, can the end of an automation be a trigger for the start of a new one?
Another great question. Jason, you're putting me through my paces today. Yeah. So you'll notice that all of our starting points, or a lot of our starting point for things like receives an email, that kind of thing, do coincide with the actions that are available. So contact sends an email. So let's, if we used contact sends an email, or we have sends an email, the trigger for the next automation would be receives an email, and then they would move through that way. So there are usually like a partner between a starting point and an action where that would work in most cases. Yeah.
Perfect. I don't see any more questions. I think now might be a good time for people to ask any questions if they have any, so that we can get Elise to spend the last 10 minutes on that.
Yeah. Any questions, whether it's about automation, anything like that, please feel free to throw them in there and we can go through it together.
Oh, Sharon asked, did Elise freeze? You froze for a second there, but it was really
I'm sorry.
fast. No worries.
Also, if you're looking at this list and you see any of our other demo workflows that would be really interesting to you, I'm happy to walk through one of those. So please throw them in the chat. I will just give you a heads up that this volunteer one by Amanda, I'm not super familiar with. So if you want me to show you that one, we have to walk through it together.
Dandy's asking, I would love to get a glance through all of those lists. So maybe
Yeah.
can you show one more, like maybe which one would be a good one?
I'm thinking probably volunteer
Yeah.
management, because the end of year follow-up is very similar to the end of year engagement that we've already talked about. Same as major donors, those ones are pretty similar. Summer outreach is not super relevant for this time of year. But again, because it's an outreach campaign and it's following a drip sequence, you'll notice that it's got a very similar structure to that end of year campaign that we've already set up, right? Just a little different messaging. So summer outreach, time to shine this summer, you made a splash, things like that. So different language as well. But let's definitely look at this volunteer management one. I think it's a good one too. So first step is that the contact completes a form, and they're specifically completing our volunteer registration form. So I can set that to be any form at all, or I can even choose like right down to the specific form within my account. So when they complete that form, they automatically join this workflow. We're then going to filter them by segment. So what we're doing is we're checking to see whether they have ever volunteered before. If they have volunteered with us before, They move into our past volunteer workflow, which sends them a welcome back email with here's what's new. They haven't volunteered before, they get a new volunteer tag. They get a specialized email that includes the additional volunteer information form, and then there's also a to-do to send them their t-shirt for the year. So that's a nice one to show you, one that splits into two separate paths, not too complicated, but two separate paths based on that contact joins a segment condition. All right, so end of year follow-up, we've kind of covered. Volunteer management, we've covered. We've done major donors. Summer, I talked about. First-time donor series. Let's look at this one really quickly. I haven't set this one up completely yet. I was thinking about doing it, but I actually thought we would run out of time on this session. So let's actually build one out together. So for our first-time donor series, I'm looking at whether or not a contact has made a transaction. And we've got a handy filter within automation that will let you look at whether it's a first time, don't check, so any transaction at all, or within a certain range or older than a certain range. So we're only looking at folks who are first time donors. So this is the first transaction that they have ever made with their email address. We're going to wait a day. Again, remember how I said sometimes it's nice to add in a little bit of a delay. They've already been thanked for the email. They've already been thanked for the transaction. We're going to delay a day. And then we're going to send them, actually, before I send them an email, I want to filter. Because if they're a recurring donor, they've already been added to our recurring donation workflow, and we don't want them to double down because I don't want to over inundate my donors with too many emails. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this if else condition, and we're going to check what the status is on a recurring membership, or sorry, a recurring transaction. Donation subscriptions. Status contains any of active, and I want to actually do does not contain any of active. So long as they do not have an active membership or an active recurring subscription, sorry, they're going to go down my yes path. I have memberships on my mind, apparently. If they do have an active recurring subscription, they're going to go down the no path. And that's because they're already getting my recurring donor workflow that I set up. Remember my difference club? They're already getting that. We'll delay and then we'll send an email. And this can be a stewardship email. So maybe for this, it would be, I'm just trying to think of what a nice stewardship subject would be. Thank you for making a difference. I really rely on that World of Difference account, right? Thank you for making a difference. Tell us more. And maybe in this, you're going to link a survey about asking for a small amount of additional information. And then maybe after 10 days, you're going to send, remember, we've already done that, more about your impact. Well, we could use more about your impact here. We could also use, an edited version of that more about your impact email. And then maybe after 7 days, we're going to delay. And this time, we're not going to do 7 days again because we don't want to email them every week, but we'll do a 30 days later. And we'll just check in and we'll let them know what we've done with their money. So we'll send this and we'll send a subject, how you helped. Convert folks from one-time givers to not necessarily recurring givers, although I do find that they help with that. But to second time givers. So converting somebody from a first time giver to a second time giver is huge. Most folks don't have affinity as a first time giver, and it's only once they develop that give that second gift that they really start to develop an ongoing affinity for your organization. So second time givers are much more likely to give a third time than first time givers are to give a second time. And also, like I said, to gather prospecting information about your donors, which can be really, really helpful for segmenting. If someone is specifically interested, as you know, I normally train in a dog, an account about dogs. So in that kind of an environment, I often find that I can lean in to asking, what's your affinity to dogs? Are you interested in volunteering? And, sometimes I can ask, is are you more interested in veterinary care? Are you more interested in adoption events? And then again, I can tailor my asks to those specific areas. Um, yeah, so just very helpful for gathering information about your donors. We've got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, let's use the last 5 minutes for questions. Does anyone have any questions in here that you want to cover by Elise? Also, reminder what I mentioned at the beginning that we are going to be sending this recording back to you all so that you all have access to it. In case you want to pause and try to mimic the workflows that Elise showed you in here, you can do that.
I saw someone ask about this end of year follow-up sequence. Um, this is again very, very similar to this contact receives an email that I've already showed you that we kind of built that I showed you with the Giving Tuesday workflow. This one is intended to kind of be sent out immediately, like right before or immediately after Christmas, to really try and capitalize on folks who haven't yet met their donation goal for the year. So in this contact receives an email, we would add in a donation summary. Again, this email is sent from within the communications tab. We would add it in a donation summary and let them know that, they have given X amount this year, and then also provide them with a link to a form if they wanted to top up their contribution at all. And again, just a drip sequence based on whether or not they donate, and as we close in to the end of the year.
I don't see any
And
questions.
okay. Well, as always, we are here at the support team to help you and assist you in any way we possibly can. You can send us your questions at support@keela.com. Like Stefania said, this is being recorded and is going to be sent out to all of the participants. If you liked what you saw here today, you really liked this training session, you liked this kind of workshop structure, let us know. But also keep in mind that we do offer premium care as an add-on to Keela. And one of the nice things about premium care is that you have access to 2 of these live workshops every month specifically for your organization. So you don't even have to share time. We can chat with each other. So if you liked this today, maybe consider premium care, at least on a short-term basis.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us directly on the support@keela.com. If you have any questions about premium care, about automation, etc., please let us know. We're more than happy to continue the conversation with you. And as I mentioned, you can expect the recording to get back to you within the end of the week. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Stefania, for moderating this with me and for monitoring chat. Thank you all for attending. It's been wonderful.
Amazing. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.